In this video, we're going to talk about how to connect slides and scenes. And we're in our project and we're in Story View. And there are really two different methods that we can use to connect slides and scenes. There's the Story View method and then there's the Slide View method. And we're going to go over both of those in this video. The first method we're going to look at, since we're in Story View, is the Story View method. And as we can see here, we have our project and we have three different scenes. And we can see that the slides in the scenes are connected, and we know that. We can look here, we can see this slide here. The red arrows will point to the slides that are connected to this main slide, and if we select one of these other slides, we can see that it's connected back to our main slide. So we can see the arrows in here, and that's going to show us how our project is going to flow in each of these scenes. Now, what hasn't happened in this project yet is we haven't connected our scenes together. So what we need to do here is we need to link scene 2 with scene 1, and we're going to link scene 3 with scene 2. So let's start with scene 1 and let's link that to scene 2. And how we're going to do that is we're going to select the very last slide in scene 1, and then we're going to select the little red mark or arrow. Sometimes there'll be an arrow, but in this case there's a little red line below the slide. I'm going to select that, and now we have this little pop-up window that shows up, and we have some options. We can link to a slide, we can create a new slide, we can link to a scene, we can create a new scene, or if we wanted to, we can add a new trigger or edit a trigger. We're not going to do either of those last two, but the first thing let's link this to a slide. So if I select the link to slide option, we have a pop-up window that shows up here, and this is the link to slide pop-up window. On the left-hand side, we have the scenes that are available in this project, and on the right, we have all of the slides that are available within each of these scenes on the left. So if I select the RDT&E introduction, we can see that the slides change in the window on the right, and so on if we do untitled scene. Now, in this scene, there's only one slide, so we're not going to have to worry about that right now. Let's go back to scene 1 and select that, and these are all of our slides in this particular scene. Now, what I do not want to do here is I do not want to connect this slide with any other slides in this scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to scene 2, select that, and I want to link that to the very first slide in scene 2. So we can see that that's already selected, and we know it's selected because it's highlighted in blue. So again, we're going to select our scene, select the slide within that scene that we want to connect it to, and then we're going to select the OK button down here at the bottom of the pop-up window. Now, the convenient thing with this is you can connect this very last slide here in scene 1 with any slide in scene 2 or any slide in any scene. And that's the beauty of Storyline, is you have multiple unlimited options as far as how you connect the slides in the scenes, and it's very easy to do. But in this one, we're just going to keep it simple, and we're going to connect the last slide in scene 1 to the first slide in scene 2. All right, so we've already selected our scene, and now we're just going to select scene 1. It's actually already selected, so we'll just leave it on that selection. And now we're going to select OK. Now notice when we did that, if we scroll down, we can now see that scene 2 is located directly beneath scene 1, which means those two are connected. So I can also select this slide now, and now we see this red arrow going from the last slide in scene 1 down to the first slide in scene 2. So that's going to show us, it's just another visual representation of how the project is going to flow. And now we just repeat that step for connecting scene 2 to scene 3 up here at the top. So if I didn't want to link this slide to another specific slide, I can actually just do a scene, which is more often than not what you're going to do if you're connecting scenes. So the next option I'm just going to go down here and show you under Story View method is link to scene. And this is very, very easy. So what we're going to do is we select the link to scene, and it gives us three options. It's just going to list the scenes, obviously, that are available in this project. In which case, if we want to link to scene 3, all I have to do is select scene 3, and boom, now we can see that scene 3 is connected to scene 2, and scene 2 is connected to scene 1. So the second method for connecting slides and scenes is the slide view method. So to do that, let's go into the last slide on scene 1. I'm just going to double click that slide, and it'll bring us into slide view. And now what I can do is, now that I know that this slide is selected, I can go over here on the right and look at my triggers panel. And under my triggers window, we have the player triggers. And these are the two we're going to look at, and specifically the one we want in order to link this to another scene is going to be this top one here. And this says jump to next slide when the user clicks the next button or swipes next. Now what that's referring to is our player. And I'm just going to go up here to the top and I'm going to select the preview tab, and we're going to preview this slide, and I can kind of show you what it's going to look like in preview mode. Okay, so in preview mode, what we see here, the area around our slide that we see here that we did a minute ago is called our player. Okay, so what we're in essence doing here is we're editing our player triggers. And what that means is we have a previous button down here at the bottom and a next button. So those player triggers are tied into the previous button and the next button. So what it's really asking us to do is set a trigger and an action to take place once the next button is clicked by the learner. Okay, so let's jump back into Storyline. I'm just going to close out of preview mode. So I'm just going to double click on this top trigger, which is the one we want. And here we have a couple actions. We can jump to a slide, or we can jump to a scene. And of course there are a lot of other actions that we can select as well, but we want one or the other. We can jump to a scene or jump to a slide. So the first option I'll select is jump to slide, and then it's going to give us some options here. So now we have slide drop down menu, and we're going to select that. And you can see here from this drop down menu, now we can select any slide specifically to connect this slide with. So in this case, we're going to do the first slide on scene 2. So we'll go ahead and select that. And then when is it going to happen? It's going to happen when the user clicks or swipes. So that's already selected, so we're good there. And the object that is going to happen to is the next button, or the swipe next, which is the button we just looked at on the player. So I'll go ahead and select OK. All right, now we can see this changes up here. So it's going to jump to 2.1, which is scene 2, slide 1, when the user selects or clicks the next button or swipes next. So this is another way to connect slides and scenes. Now let's do one more thing here. I'm just going to select this one more time, double click, and then next we're going to go to jump to scene. And again, we have the scene drop down menu, and this is where we would select the applicable scene that we would attach this slide to. So I'm going to go ahead and just do scene 2. So in essence, what we just did here is we connected this slide with the second scene with two different actions. Okay, so let's go back to Story View and see if our changes took place here. Okay, and yes, they did. So now we can see that scene 1 is connected to scene 2, and we did that in slide view. So again, you can either use the story view to tie in and connect slides and scenes, or you can go into the actual slide and connect them there via the player triggers.